6 months ago I was planning our future. Now? He thinks I'm dead. Let's rewind. His name was Eric. 32, charming, manipulative in the way only broken boys can be. He had that crooked smile, the kind that made people trust him without question. That's what made it worse. When he walked away, no one blinked. He didn't cheat and cry. He didn't even argue. He just vanished. We were together 3 years. Lived together too. Shared everything from Spotify playlists to late-night grocery runs. He made promises. Whispered things like, "You're the only one who's ever really understood me." And I believed him. Right up until the day he blocked me on everything. No fight. No warning. Just a void. My messages turned green. My calls hit voicemail. I waited. Convinced myself it was a mistake. Maybe his phone was stolen. Maybe he got scared. Maybe. Then I saw it. A photo on his ex's profile. She'd gone private, but one of my friends still followed her. I hadn't thought to look, why would I? She was abusive, he'd said. Toxic. Obsessed. But there he was. In her kitchen. Holding her cat. Wearing the hoodie I bought him for his birthday. Just like that, the truth cracked me in half. He didn't ghost me. He went back to her. And he didn't even have the decency to lie about it to my face. I won't pretend I took it well. That first week I barely ate. I deleted our photos one at a time, like picking glass out of my skin. I cried so hard I burst blood vessels in my eyes. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't think. And then came the thought that scared me the most. Maybe I didn't need to exist anymore. There was no big scene. No note. Just a quiet moment on the bathroom floor, holding a bottle of pills, wondering if anyone would notice if I disappeared. But I didn't take them. Instead, I imagined something else. What if I made him believe I had? What if he thought I really did disappear? And what if, one day when he finally felt a shred of guilt, if that day ever came, I made him sit with the weight of that silence? I didn't chase him. I didn't beg. I changed my number. Deleted every social. Moved across the city. I even changed my last name on mail. I became invisible. And for 6 months I lived like a ghost. Quiet. Tired. Hollow. Until yesterday. He unblocked me. He sent a message. "Avery, I'm so sorry. I was a coward. I was lost. I think about you all the time." Funny how guilt waits until after the damage is done. He said he wanted to talk. That he missed me. That he regretted everything. So I answered. But not as me. "This is Avery's sister," I typed. "I'm sorry to tell you this, but she passed away in December." His reply came within seconds. "What? No, 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 no. Please tell me this isn't real." But it was now. I was dead to him. And he would never know otherwise. He asked if I left a note. Of course he did. Guilt craves meaning. Regret begs for a last word to cling to. Something to read in the dark when sleep won't come. Something to prove he mattered. So I gave him one. That night I sat at my desk with the blinds drawn and the world silent around me. I lit a candle, not for the theatrics but because the quiet hum of the flame steadied my hand. I pulled out thick stationery. The kind that feels heavier than it should. Like grief pressed into paper. And I started to write. To Eric. "You said once that you didn't know how to love someone who didn't need saving. I thought that meant I was strong. I didn't realize it meant you'd never love me at all. I tried. I gave everything. I waited. And when you left, I stopped breathing in the ways that matter. This isn't your fault. But it's not your fault either. If you're reading this, you've finally decided to remember me. That's more than I got when you left. I hope this hurts. Because I died knowing you never looked back. Goodbye." I let the ink dry. Folded the letter 3 times. Slid it into a smaller envelope and wrote his name across it in cursive. Then I found a box. Inside it I placed a copy of the photo booth strip we took the day we moved in together. The receipt from the diner we always went to on Sunday mornings. The first note he ever wrote me. Crumpled but still legible. And the necklace he gave me for our 1-year anniversary, one I hadn't worn since he disappeared. On top, I placed the letter. Then I sealed the box and wrapped it in brown paper. Wrote his name and address. No return label. Just a ghost delivering grief. At the post office, the clerk didn't blink. People send strange things every day. This going far? He asked. Far enough, I said. When I got home, I sent the final message from the sister I had created. I found a few things she kept. I think they were meant for you. She didn't say much in the end, but she wrote something. I mailed it to you. You should have it by Friday. He replied within minutes. Thank you. I just don't know what to say. Of course he didn't. Men like Eric never do. Not until they have no one left to say it to. I turned my phone off. And for the first time in half a year, I slept like someone who had finally buried the past. Friday came with rain. The kind that soaks through your coat in seconds. The kind that makes the whole city feel like it's mourning something. I sat in the corner booth of a coffee shop near his apartment. Hood up. Laptop open. Pretending to work. But I wasn't here for the espresso. I was here for the moment his past arrived in a cardboard box. 2:42 p.m. I watched from behind the tinted glass as a postal truck pulled up across the street. The driver hopped out with 2 packages. One small. One heavy and flat. Mine. Eric's apartment was on the 2nd floor, above a flower shop. His mailbox was one of 6, bolted just inside the foyer. The delivery guy punched the code, got buzzed in, and vanished into the stairwell. 3 minutes later, I saw the curtain shift in Eric's window. He was home. Of course he was. My phone buzzed. Did you send the box already? Because something just arrived. I ignored it. This part wasn't about words. It was about witnessing. I sipped my coffee and watched his silhouette move behind the glass, pacing, stopping, opening the box. There was a long pause. Then he sat. Still. Completely still. Like someone had pulled the plug and drained all the air from the room. I imagined his fingers tracing the edge of the necklace. The photo booth strip. The receipt. My handwriting. The note. It was one thing to be told someone is dead. It's another thing to feel them reaching out from the grave with unfinished sentences and artifacts of a life you shattered. My phone buzzed again. She kept everything. I don't even know how to process this. I didn't answer. He blocked me when I needed answers. Now he could sit with the silence. After 20 minutes, he disappeared from the window. I imagined him sitting on the floor, holding that stupid photo booth strip, the one where he kissed my cheek and whispered that he'd never leave me. He left anyway. And now? Now he thought he'd left behind a corpse. I finished my coffee. Walked back out into the rain. Pulled up my hood and vanished into the blur of the city. No theatrics. No dramatic exit. Just like him. Except mine had weight. Mine had intent. I wasn't planning to go out that night. But grief, real or faked, doesn't like schedules. I couldn't sit in my apartment any longer, listening to the echo of silence I created. I needed noise. Movement. Distraction. So I put on a coat, tied my hair up, and slipped into the kind of bar where no one asks questions. Dim lighting, soft music, and strangers who look like they're all trying to forget something. I ordered a drink I hadn't had in months. Whiskey sour. No cherry. That used to be our drink. Now it was mine again. I took my glass to a table near the back and sank into the worn leather booth. And that's when I saw him. Not Eric. Ben. Eric's old coworker. His gym buddy. The guy who helped us move into our first apartment. He didn't just know me, he'd once called me family. My stomach dropped. He was standing at the bar, scrolling through his phone. Alone. Same broad shoulders, same slightly too loud laugh. Same beat-up Yankees cap. I turned my face away too quickly. Too obvious. I couldn't leave. Not yet. He hadn't seen me, I thought. But I was wrong. Avery? The sound of my name hit me like a slap. I turned slowly like I was emerging from underwater. He blinked. Sorry. You just look like someone I knew. I forced a smile. One I hoped looked confused, detached. Like someone who didn't know who he was. Sorry. Not me. He tilted his head. You sure? I shrugged. You'd be surprised how many girls have that name. He stared at me for a second too long. Then nodded. Right. Sorry. My mistake. He turned back to the bar. My pulse thundered in my ears. Ben knew me well. Well enough to doubt what I said. But not well enough to chase me down. I waited 5 more minutes, finished my drink in silence, then slipped out the back exit and into the alley behind the bar. Leaning against the brick wall, I took a long breath. That was close. Too close. It wasn't just about Eric anymore. It was about the entire fabric of my former life. Every thread I'd unraveled could start tangling again if I wasn't careful. People talk. Even people who mean well. If Ben figured it out. If word spread. Then the illusion would shatter. And Eric would know the truth. That I wasn't dead. I'd just gotten better at pretending. I wasn't expecting it. Not from her. The woman he left me for. The same woman he claimed was toxic, manipulative, crazy. The one he said stalked him, screamed at him, broke his things. Her name was Lila. I never reached out to her. Never even considered it. Why would I? She was the villain in the story Eric wrote for me. The shadow he swore he escaped. So when I opened my inbox and saw her name, my breath caught in my throat. Subject: I think we need to talk. From Lila E.
Date 上午11点43分
Avery. You don't know me. But I know who you are. And before you delete this, please just let me say. I had no idea what really happened between you two. Eric told me you were unstable. That you disappeared. That you were seeing someone else. But last week he got a box in the mail. He's been a wreck ever since. He finally told me the truth. Or at least part of it. And now I need to tell you mine. I stared at the screen. My hand hovered over the mouse. Close. Delete. Forget. But something pulled me forward. I clicked open. The email continued. He came back to me 6 months ago, claiming he finally saw things clearly. He said you hurt him. That he couldn't take the emotional roller coaster anymore. I wanted to believe him. I did. Until I found the messages. Hundreds of them. Screenshots, photos, voice notes. All from you. All unread. You begged for answers. You told him you didn't understand why he left. You said you loved him. That you were broken. And he ignored all of it. He didn't just ghost you. He watched you spiral and turned his phone off. That's when I realized he lied to both of us. I felt the rage before I felt the pain. Because deep down I already knew. I just never had it confirmed. Never had someone else say yes. It was real. And yes, he was the one who destroyed it. He manipulated me too, she wrote. He said you were dead inside. That he was saving himself. But I see it now. He doesn't want love. He wants devotion. Blind, unquestioning devotion. I'm done with him. I left this morning. And I thought you deserved to know, not all of us believed his story. Not anymore. At the bottom was a line that stopped my heart cold. P.S. I never stopped thinking you were the one who got away. Now I know why. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall. Everything I'd built. The lies I'd spun. All to make him feel what I felt. But now I wondered. Had I underestimated how truly broken he was? He didn't just discard me. He used me. Then rewrote history with a new narrator. And now that history was beginning to collapse. They say lies have short legs. Mine ran 6 months. But now? Now they were starting to limp. It began with a voicemail. One I wasn't supposed to get. It came from a number I didn't recognize, probably a new one. But the voice on the recording? I knew it better than I knew my own. Eric. I don't know if this will reach anyone. If you're her sister or her friend or whatever. But I need to say something. I held the phone like it was poison. I didn't know she was hurting that bad. I swear I didn't. She always seemed so strong. So put together. Liar. I've been seeing her in my dreams. I wake up and swear she's still lying next to me. I don't know what to do. You should have thought about that before you vanished. If she ever said anything to anyone before if there was a note or anything else, please just tell me. I need to understand. Please. Click. Silence. I didn't delete it. I listened to it 5 times. Each time felt like peeling off another layer of control I thought I had. Because now he wasn't just guilty. He was grieving. And grief spreads. The next day I got a message from a mutual friend. A girl named Sadie. We weren't close, but we'd gone to the same yoga class every Thursday before everything fell apart. I hadn't spoken to her in almost a year. Hey. Super random question, but I heard something about you and, well, I just want to make sure you're okay. I froze. They were talking. The story was leaking. I responded vaguely. Just needed time away from everything. Taking care of myself. No mention of death. No confirmation. Just enough to throw shade on the rumor. She responded with a thumbs up and a heart. But it was too late. The dominoes were falling. I logged into the old account I used to monitor Eric's socials, still under a fake name just in case. He hadn't posted anything directly. But his friends had. Cryptic updates. Checking in on people you love is important. Life's short. Don't waste time. And one post. A black square. No caption. Just comments. R.I.P. Avery, disappointed face. She didn't deserve that. I hope you're at peace now. I sat there, staring at the screen, heart pounding, mind blank. I wanted revenge. But I didn't expect this kind of fire to catch. It was spreading out of control. People believed it, mourned it. And worse? Some were blaming themselves. Not Eric. Just themselves. For not reaching out. For not knowing. It was supposed to be his cross to carry. But now? Now I was dragging a whole graveyard behind me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw candlelit photos. Digital shrines with my face in soft filters. Strangers, people I barely knew, posting tributes. She was light. She deserved better. I wish I'd known she was struggling. They meant well. But every word felt like another nail in a coffin I built with my own hands. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was a funeral. And the worst part? I still wasn't sure if I wanted to stop it. I told myself this was justice. That Eric deserved to feel the loss. That pretending I was gone was poetic. That this was his lesson to learn. But now it was starting to feel like something else. Darker. Heavier. And that's when Tara called. Tara wasn't part of Eric's circle. She was mine. One of the few I'd stayed in touch with under the radar. She knew I'd gone off-grid. But she didn't know the full story. Her voice came through the phone like a siren cutting through fog. Avery? What the hell is going on? I froze. Swallowed hard. What do you mean? She laughed. Not the funny kind. You're dead. Apparently. That's what I mean. Silence. Avery, people are texting me. Asking if it's true. Asking if you left a note. What am I supposed to say? I tried to breathe. Failed. I didn't think it would spread. You didn't think it would spread? She snapped. You told people you were dead? I told him, I whispered. She went quiet. Wait, this was for Eric? I explained everything. The box. The letter. The fake sister text. The inbox full of unread messages. The silence. The pain. The revenge. I told her all of it. When I was done, she didn't yell. She just sighed. You really hurt. I still do. But Avery, how far are you willing to go? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. I hung up soon after. Told her I needed space. She didn't argue. She just told me to call her when I was ready. And then I sat in the dark, asking myself the question that had been growing louder with every heartbeat. Was I trying to make him grieve? Or was I trying to disappear for real? The answer scared me. Because I wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. I should have seen it coming. People don't just grieve quietly, not the ones who carry guilt. They need to confess. They need an audience. And Eric? He'd finally found his. I woke up to dozens of notifications. Not from my ghost accounts. From my real email. The one I hadn't touched since the day I died. I stared at the inbox. 36 unread messages. Subject lines like, I'm sorry and please talk to me and Avery if you're there. He'd figured it out. Or maybe he just lost his mind. I clicked the most recent one. I don't know what's real anymore. Your sister won't answer. I've driven to your old apartment twice. I even called your job. They said you left. That no one had heard from you in months. Are you alive? No greeting. No signature. Just desperation. And then I saw it, the email he CC'd it to. My mother. My hands went cold. He was dragging other people into this now. My mom and I hadn't spoken in over a year. Our relationship was complicated. But that wasn't the point. He was trying to confirm the story by reaching out to anyone who might hold a piece of the puzzle. I checked another email. If she's really gone, please let me know. I'll pay for funeral expenses. I need to know. Another was to one of my old co-workers. Another to a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to since the breakup. Eric was spiraling. And now? Now he was taking everyone else down with him. He thought he was hunting for the truth. But really he was broadcasting his guilt. And worse? He was building a story that couldn't be undone without destroying people who had nothing to do with this. This wasn't just a private punishment anymore. It was public. I sat at my desk staring at the screen, heart pounding. There were two paths now. Tell him the truth. Come clean. Tear the mask off and watch everything burn in a different way. Double down. Disappear completely. Cut every remaining thread. Let the ghost story become gospel. Either way, someone was going to bleed. But for the first time since I'd mailed that box, I wasn't sure he was the one who deserved it. It wasn't supposed to go this far. That's the line I kept whispering to myself like a prayer I hoped would undo everything. But prayers don't work when you're the one who lit the match. I sat in the middle of my living room floor, the silence pressing on me like a second skin. My laptop open. A blank document blinking. Waiting. Not for another lie. Not for another trap. For the truth. This letter wasn't for Eric. Not for Lila. Not even for the people who had mourned me without ever asking why. It was for me. The girl who was left behind. The girl who didn't know if she was grieving or punishing. Hurting or hiding. I typed slowly like every word cost me something. Because it did. Avery. You wanted him to feel what you felt. The loss. The confusion. The silence. But instead you built a story so big that you forgot how to step out of it. You didn't do this because you're cruel. You did it because no one ever gave you permission to be angry. To scream. To say, you broke me. So you gave yourself that power. You created grief like a mirror. And now you're the one stuck staring at it. He doesn't own you anymore. Not your sadness. Not your story. Not your breath. And you don't have to die to be free. You're allowed to live. You're allowed to move on. You're allowed to start over, not because he deserves forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. No more pretending. No more punishing. No more ghosts. You're still here. That's enough. I stopped. Reread it once. Then I printed it. Folded it. Slipped it into an envelope. Wrote my name across the front. Not Eric's. Not a fake sister. Just mine. I placed it on my nightstand. A reminder. Not of who I was trying to hurt, but of who I refused to become. I didn't need to press send. Didn't need to post it or mail it or turn it into some cinematic moment. It just needed to exist. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't planning how to disappear. I was writing my way back. I never told him. Not because I couldn't. Because I didn't want to. The old me, the version who cried over his silence, who built a fantasy funeral just to make him feel an ounce of her pain, she would have wanted the big reveal. A text. A video. A dramatic confession. Surprise. I'm alive. And this was all your fault. But I've learned something in these past 6 months. Real power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from walking away while they're still looking for you. Eric kept emailing. Kept reaching. He even posted on social media calling me the love of his life. The same man who ghosted me like I was an expired receipt now wanted the world to know he cared. He didn't care when it mattered. He cared when it made him look like a victim. He wanted absolution without atonement. So I gave him silence. Not as revenge. As release. For both of us. I moved again. Somewhere quieter. No city noise. Just trees and water and air that didn't carry memories in its breath. I got a dog, his name's Milo. I started painting again. I even smiled at a stranger in a bookstore last week and didn't feel guilty about it. Every day I learn a little more about who I am without him. And every night I sleep knowing that I never have to carry his name in my mouth again. I burned the letter. The fake one. The one that lived in that box next to old receipts and a broken necklace and all the scraps of a life I used to beg him to stay for. I watched it turn to ash in the fireplace. Not because I regret what I did, but because I don't need it anymore. I kept the real letter, the one I wrote to myself. It stays folded in my journal. Not as a warning. As a promise. That I won't disappear for anyone again. That if I ever go quiet, it'll be for peace, not for punishment. That my story belongs to me now. Eric will never know the truth. He'll always wonder if the ghost he created came back to haunt him. And that's fine. Because I didn't write this ending for him. I wrote it for me.